All right. Good day, everybody. Thank you for joining us on yet another episode of the podcast. And on today's episode, I have a phenomenal guest with me in the studio. Is none other than Mr. Jafar Abubakar, who happens to be the Director General of the Nigerian Agribusiness Group. And so, guys, we're just going to hear from him. We're going to be talking about a topic that is very dear to all of us, which is agriculture as the new gold, diversifying Nigeria's economy through agribusiness. And Mr. Java is a consultant in this area, and so he will be sharing with us his expertise on the subject matter of discourse. So I'll read out his profile so you guys get to know him a bit better. Mr. Jafar Abubakar is the Director General of Nigerian Agribusiness Group, a foremost private sector platform, an umbrella body uniting stakeholders across Nigeria's agribusiness sector. With a deep commitment to advancing agricultural transformation, he leads the group's mission to grow Nigeria's agricultural economy, create jobs, and lift millions out of poverty. Under his leadership, the group has driven investment across the entire agricultural value chain, from inputs to mechanization to output to export to consumer goods manufacturing. This integrated approach positions agriculture not just as a source of livelihood, but also as a source of strategic engine for national economic growth and industrialization. As a strong advocate for policy reforms, Mr. Abubakar Mr. Abubakar works closely with the government at all levels to shape enabling environments that supports competitiveness, sustainability, inclusiveness in agribusiness. Through this collaboration, the group champions diversification of Nigerians' economy away from oil and gas, steering it towards agricultural industrialization. Mr. Abubakar's vision for Nigeria is for food safety, innovation, value creation. He continues to position the group as a central driver for socioeconomic growth, ensuring that agriculture becomes a powerful tool for national prosperity and global competitiveness. Mr. Abubakar, welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So we're going to just delve into the conversation today. And as we do that, my very first question to you this morning is, for so long, our economy, which is Nigeria in particular, has been dependent a lot on oil, for economic growth. In your own view, what makes agriculture a more viable, or let's say the new oil for our country's future?
Thank you very much, Saru. So, as you know, oil is extractive, right? We extract
Yes.
oil from the earth for use, while agriculture is renewable.
Mm,
In most quarters, what you hear, is agriculture saves the earth, saves the environment, while oil extraction actually causes problems for the
mm-hmm.
environment. So that being set aside, agriculture has the potential to save Nigeria as a whole. The
Mm,
oil industry, yes, there's a lot of money. Yes, Nigeria has benefited from it for quite some while. Uh, Several evils, if I can use that word, have come from, the oil industry, and our dependency on oil has, in most cases, been seen as a burden rather than success. So
mm,
agriculture being the new oil
yeah.
is undoubtedly true. I mean, Agriculture employs the vast majority of Nigerians. Agriculture
Sure.
feeds Nigeria,
Yeah.
and the the potential for Nigeria to receive forex through
Mm,
agricultural export is exponential. Potential is
mm,
huge. Uh, the only caveat is that we actually invest in agriculture as much as possible. Right now, we are
yeah.
exporting a lot of raw agricultural outputs, and I'm
Mm,
happy that the government is taking some initiative to ban the exports of
yeah.
raw commodities now to encourage local processing, which will create more jobs, more incomes for Nigeria. So yes, I definitely agree. Agriculture is the new oil and has the enormous potential to surpass the benefits that we've gotten from oil over the years.
Fantastic, fantastic. I like how you really expanded on that question and just providing us much more insight regards that subject in question. So
Yeah.
my very next question at this time is, you talked about that within the sector there's so much vast opportunity, right? So for someone that is not like a player within the space, but just listening for to get like more insights and more information about things like this, what would you say are like some of the specifics opportunity that exist within the sector?
Where do I start from? I mean, agriculture. There's there's opportunity at every stage of the value chain in agriculture. Let me give you an example. Let's take a typical value chain. Let's take soya, for example, the
Okay.
soy value, right?
Mhm.
So where does it start from? It starts from land clearing. If you have no
Yeah.
experience in agriculture, but you're a young person or even an old man like myself, and you want to get a piece of the action in agriculture, you can
Yeah.
decide to become an agent
Mm,
for tractorization, find
mm,
tractors and link them to farmers to clear their land. That in
mm,
itself is money because we clear millions of hectares of land every day. A lot of rural farmers don't have access to mechanization. If you can bridge that gap, that's money. You don't even
mm,
have to own a tractor. You can just be an agent, find the market, connect the players, and get paid, right?
mm.
You can be an
Yeah.
extension agent. You can go to several private extension and even public funded extension academies and learn what it means to become an extension agent. How do you provide services to farmers?
Mm.
Learn how to do that, and you can be a player and you can get paid either in cash or in commodity, right?
Yeah. True.
It's beyond that. You can be the farmer yourself. I mean, you can be an input dealer in terms of seeds or fertilizer, find the
Yeah.
myriad of seed companies or fertilizer companies and, offtake from them and sell to farmers, either in bags or in cups or in whatever way that you can. You can make money
Yeah.
there. That's an inputs. The other
Yeah.
aspect of things to look at is processing. Here in Senegal, I saw something that blew my mind away. So I went to the
Okay.
poultry valley and I saw feed miller, a mobile feed miller you can
Ooh.
put in your bag and travel with it. So you can put all the inputs in, mill your feed, and give to your poultry. A mobile one that blew me away. I mean, so if you can invest in that, you can become a service provider to poultry farmers, right?
Mm,
the the opportunities are vast. Now we go into exports or we go into services where you can, if you're a young person, you can get into, the issue of drone technology for providing information about farmlands, right? You can go into packaging, you can go
mm,
into warehousing, you can go into cold chain, you can go into transport of agricultural goods. And last but not least, exports. You can actually earn USD by exporting agricultural products from Nigeria to any country in the world where you can actually earn USD. So the opportunities are vast. It's not easy. Let me be very clear. Agriculture is not a quick money, quick fix type
making
thing.
scheme.
You require
Yeah.
work to make money. Yeah, but opportunities
Mm,
are.
fantastic. I like how you kept on highlighting and just hitting on the fact that, expressing it towards young people. And that's like
Mhm,
one thing I'm very keen about, which is one of the reasons why I do the podcast, because I personally think that agriculture in itself is a viable means to economic empowerment, and
mhm.
it's also capable of employing a lot of young people. Just like you
I agree.
rightly mentioned, there's so much that can be done within, the value chain. And so my very next question is: there are many young people that still see agriculture as unattractive. It's still like very drudgerous to them. That's like their perception of their mindset towards it, right? Compared to
Mhm.
like oil and gas and tech. So, from your own perspective, how do you think that we can sort of reframe agriculture as a business and a viable career path so that it excites like young people and even the next generation to want to be active players in the sector?
I mean, you're quite right. I've interacted with a few young people over the years, and they're concerned, agriculture isn't, permit me to use this way, it's not sexy. It makes you
Yes.
look like this. It's only poor people and
People,
villagers that do
yes.
agriculture, right? But I'm also happy that that trend is changing. I mean, in Senegal here,
Mm,
I can tell you boldly that 80% of the people that attended the conference here at the AFSF were young people, right?
mm,
Demonstrating different level of skill. So I'm really, really happy that the trend is changing. And in Nigeria in particular, I think young people are now recognizing the enormous power and the wealth that is in agriculture. There are several examples. I mean, I talked about a few in the last question, but if you think about other areas that young people could actually find a niche for themselves, I mean, in terms of tech, with the explosion in technology and AI and different gadgets now that are available with mobile technology, young people can actually carve themselves a nice niche to make money in there, right? Now, granted, there are a number of challenges that could, hinder them from being able to do this very well. But at the core of it, young people's exploding imagination, their
yeah,
innovation, allow them to see these opportunities and seize them quite clearly. So one of the areas that would really, really attract young people that I think is currently doing that is the area of mechanization, anything that has to
true.
do with service. So you don't have to break your back, to get involved in land preparation and all that. There are, you know, technology driven machines now that you can use either for yourself or you can use as a service to provide to a number of young people. That doesn't mean you can't sit in an office with your nice suit and well lit environment and actually make money from it, right? I would use the example of one of the biggest inspiration for young people in agriculture in Ogun State, Mr. Sampson of Soilless Farms. I mean, I
Yeah,
like how he's inspiring young people, but also says as a farmer, he's not identified as being tattered or papa. I mean,
yeah,
he dresses up well and showcases the power of the agriculture that he's in. So I think young people actually have that opportunity that they can really, really, take that up. And government has a role as well to make it more enabling, more attractive, and make it
yeah.
easy people to enter into the trade. And for platforms like mine, where agribusinesses that are doing well should tell the story. And that's what we try to do at NABG as well. Tell the story so that more young people can relate to the expertise, to the experience, and quickly demystify the get rich quick syndrome that a lot of young people have. Make it clear that if you want to make real generational wealth, that would outlive you and your grandchildren, then agriculture is the place to go.
Fantastic, fantastic. I believe that what you have said just further buttresses one of my firm beliefs, which is agriculture, it's a viable means for economic empowerment. In fact,
Mm.
this month on the 19th, I'm hosting like a virtual summit. And the summit is tagged unveiling the possibility within agriculture for African youths. I'm having
Mm.
different, key players within the sector just have that conversation, as well as I'm also launching a book. It's called Agriculture Beyond Farming: A Pathway to Economic Prosperity. The essence
Mm.
is I want more young people to come into the sector, and just like you rightly mentioned, if a person is like a data scientist, they could offer their skill set for businesses so
Definitely.
that they can make data-driven decisions. If they can just connect, the farmers to tractor holders, that's also good. I think Mr. Jahel does that with Hello Tractor. I've had him on the podcast a while back. Hello Tractor from Kenya. I've had him on the. So I feel like there's a lot of opportunities, just like you mentioned. And I was really glad to hear that at the conference in Senegal there were a lot of young people
Yeah.
present there. So that means that the movement is ongoing already, and so I'm really excited to just hear that. So I know that you deal with a lot of stakeholders, whether it's like policymakers, the government, private investors, and things like that. What would you
Mm.
say are like some of the roles the governments, in terms of like policies and regulations, can play to make agriculture like much more enabling? for so it becomes like a true driver for economic diversification?
So let me give you a fun fact, right?
Okay.
Nigeria has some of the best written policies in the world. Like we
Written.
export, yes,
Okay.
we export policies. So countries actually pick up our policies and
Wow.
adapt to their environment. So we have some of the best policies in the world. However, our biggest challenge, as many people I'm sure would have told you, is implementing those policies. So
Yeah.
to make agriculture more seamless, right? Policy environment is critical. And this is a
Mm,
space where we at NABG play very, very well to ensure that policies that have been created to make agriculture and agribusiness more profitable, more responsive, actually get implemented. And I can give you a few
mm,
examples. But the point
okay.
now is the role of government in making sure that agriculture remains favorable and responsive to agribusinesses is actually critical. But beyond the policy environment, there are other areas that government needs to definitely make priority for the dots to be connected more effectively. Let me give you a few examples. As I
Okay.
mentioned earlier, exports is one of the areas that a lot of agribusinesses make money, right?
True.
But if you the challenges that most exporters face when trying to export is also not very encouraging, to be honest. From dealing with multiple agencies, you're dealing with customs,
Mm,
NEPC, you're dealing with NAFTA, you're dealing with Nigerian quarantine, sanitary and phytosanitary issues, and multiple payments and the system. And, so all that can be discouraging. So if government were to sanitize that system, make it easy for agribusiness
mm,
exports, that would go a long way in encouraging the system. Let's talk about infrastructure also. The ability to move your goods from Borno State in the north or Birnin Kebbi in the
mm.
northwest down to Lagos is a daunting task, right?
Yes.
From the terrible infrastructure to illegal roadblocks to the skyrocketing price of diesel and fuel, all that contribute to making things a little bit difficult. So if government could come in
Mm,
systemically, surgically, and strategically make things a lot easier for agribusinesses in terms of the regulation, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the technology that has been enabled, it will go a long way in making things easier. And to the, to be fair to government, I think they're trying. And platforms like mine, the NABG, and other stakeholders keep reminding government in different fora that it is important to make things easy for agribusinesses. I mean, the Minister of Agriculture was also here in Senegal, and we
mm,
had a very interesting conversation. And a number of agribusinesses, young people, actually challenged him to say, what is the government doing in this areas of access to finance? What is the government doing in this area of insecurity? What's the government doing in this? And you could see, the responses of the minister, towing the line of government still recognizing these issues and making moves to make them better. So we'll keep putting them on their toes to ensure they don't forget to make agribusiness a priority in Nigeria.
fantastic, fantastic. I like the fact that you highlighted that the governments are aware and they are taking steps to ensure that there are a couple of changes within the system. So, can you sort of share with us like practical examples of cases where agribusiness has successfully lift out community out of poverty and has sort of created like sustainable livelihood for people through your platform?
Oh, I think that there are several examples. I can give you a few. Let's start with one of our best success stories. So one of the you know members of the NABG, a council member actually, the TGI group, Tropical Green International, hosts houses a number of companies. And one of those companies is called Wakot, the West African Cotton Company, and they produce the brand Big Bull Rice, right? That rice comes from Argungu in Kebbi State. I don't know if you're aware, but Kebbi is the number one producer of rice in Nigeria. So,
Wow.
what model did um, WACOT use? So, WACOT use a typical model of outgrower where they provide input support to farmers, and the farmers utilize these inputs and pay back in commodity, in rice at this time. So, in between 2000 and 2022 to 2024, WACOT
Mm.
has recorded a recovery rate of 99% for their
Wow. That's
investments. Yes, that's
good.
unheard of. That's
Yeah.
unheard of.
Good
But then the
numbers.
question is, so what did they do? They were very, very intentional about their approach. So they didn't make the
Mm.
same mistake that a lot of agribusinesses do. We just go into the community, who is a rice farmer, you okay, take this inputs, go do your farm and get back to us. No, 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 no. They ensured that the intervention was holistic. So
Mm.
everything from registering the farmers, so knowing who these farmers are, to involving the traditional institutions, so the emirs or the religious leaders within that community, to
Yeah.
recognizing the role that spouses play. So they didn't
Yeah.
just focus on giving inputs to the male farmers who are the ones who produce the most rice, but ensure
Mm.
that they profile their wives. What do the
Mm.
wives do? How can we ensure that we are targeting the economy as a whole? And this is not different, it's linked. So, rice produced by the husbands, the husks, are then supplied
Mm.
to the wives to produce briquettes that provide energy for cooking and a few other things in the house. They also involved access to finance. So, they brought in banks like Union Bank and a few others to be part of the ecosystem that would guarantee adequate financial inclusion for that
Mm.
community. Obviously, WACOT is there to offtake 100% whatever the farmers produced, including what the farmers owe to the company and what the farmers own for themselves. So if they're willing to sell, WACOT is there to offtake. If they're willing to put it, and the processing capacity is in the community, is in Aragungu. So the entire
Mm.
loop has been closed. So
Yeah.
this demonstrated significant improvement in the Aragungu economy, because
Yes.
of that singular agribusiness. So models like that can be replicated across the country in different value chains, not just rice. I mean, we have the same story for L&Z integrated farms. They process dairy into yogurt and
Mm.
other products, right? Same thing where they're now, focusing on the empowerment of young girls in this value chain, right? Ensuring that they curb the issues of post, post harvest loss in the dairy industry. Ensuring that they prioritize education for girls by paying them premium for their products. So all these are examples that communities would actually benefit significantly if agribusinesses, were focused and supported within that ecosystem as a whole. And more importantly, the interventions have to be deliberate. Remember, this is a business. You don't leave things
Yeah.
to chance. You have to be deliberate and conscious about the intervention, and you're likely to reap its benefit.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for that answer. As we know, one of the critical challenges as regards agriculture is also sort of access to finance, right? And
Mm.
you also highlighted another, which is infrastructure. So as regards access to finance, technology, and infrastructure, which seems to be like the major barriers to farmers or even agro businesses. How can stakeholders sort of collectively overcome this challenge or work through this challenge?
To be honest, access to finance is a real issue right now. And
Yeah.
the MPR, around the lending rate right now in Nigeria is just not sustainable. I mean, we're talking about over 30%. So if you were going to walk into a bank, let me make this simpler, to say, hey, my bank, why don't you give me a loan because I want to go into agro processing and all that. They might be willing to give you that money, but it will be extremely expensive. So if you take 100,000
Mm.
as a loan, you're expected to pay back 30 to 35,000. So
Mm.
135,000. That's just not. I mean, the profit margins within agriculture and agribusiness, in most cases 25%, because as I said, it's not a get rich quick type thing, something that builds over time. So, but
Mm.
then you're expected to pay back a loan that is almost 10 to 15% higher than what you are likely to get as profit. So this doesn't seem sustainable from the commercial angle. But there are other sources of finance. I mean that are actually in operations now across the country. I just give you an example of the outgrow model, where the anchor agribusiness actually provides access to finance in the form of inputs to the farmers. There are other platforms where you have companies accessing private equity, funds or venture capital funds for especially things that have to do with exports and processing. And more recently, the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) actually
Yeah.
launched a platform for crowdfunding, which I thought was really, really good. Crowdfunding basically means you put out your value proposition, and someone who has the funds is finds it interesting and is willing to match it, and there's an intermediary that connects both sides together. So it's a more flexible and
Yeah.
albeit more decentralized form of access to finance for players. So this is something that is operational, and a lot of young people and agribusiness players are making use of. But we also call on the central bank to
Mm.
look at this critically. How can we de-risk and support access to finance, for agribusinesses and other smallholder players within agriculture and the value chain, so that it makes it easy and makes that transition as we're getting more interest now, especially of young people. Access to
Yeah.
finance should also match that energy, so that as
Mm.
they're going, there is that different products that can help you get set up, and guarantees provided by both public and private players, to support the utilization of finance within the sector. We're not there yet, but gradually, I'm very confident we will be in the future.
Fantastic, fantastic. So your group sort of brings stakeholders together across the entire agricultural value chain, right? So could you sort of share with us how the group is driving collaboration and impact both on a local level and on a national level?
Yeah, um, there are a few examples to share with regards what the NABG is doing, to keep us, on our toes as a whole. It's important to recognize that agriculture is a huge, huge sector with
Yes.
multitude of players, both in the private
Yeah.
and the public sector.
Yes.
Now, coordination is very, very key, because
Mm.
we recognize that it's not it's not strategic to work in silos, to work on your own in the sector.
Yeah.
You're not going to reap the enough benefits. So what we at NABG are trying to do is, as much as possible, bring all stakeholders together so that we harness each other's strengths, and we're able
Yes.
to speak with one voice. We'd like to think of ourselves as that leading voice for agribusinesses in the country. So we do
Mm.
this in different layers. At the national
Okay.
level, right, we do large, high level convenings. I mean, we had our presidential roundtable, a few months ago, where the president, himself was represented by the Ministry of Agriculture, where conversations were had around some of the challenges within, the sector and what the government is expected to do, at that level. Um, Same also at the private sector side, we through our platform and members try to engage and articulate some of the challenges that they face. So everything from access to finance that we just talked about, to the poor infrastructure, to cold chain issues, to
Yeah.
illegal roadblocks, to the challenges with imports for fertilizer, and a bunch of things. And that sort of informs our advocacy strategy, to engage with government. The president of NABG, Architect Kabir Ibrahim, was actually, part of the delegation of the Honorable Minister of Agriculture. So that's how close we are with government, so that we're able to whisper in their ears, look, the private sector isn't happy. We think you need to put out this policy, we need to support that in that way. At the more granular level, our approach, especially to encouraging more young people and, in fact, bolster the confidence of women in agriculture, is we implement a program called the Women and Youth Regional Agribusiness Conference called WAFAC. I mean, we did this
Mm.
the country, at the tail end of last year. We were in all the regions of Nigeria. We had conversations with young people, and we identified champions amongst them that
Mm.
serve as NABG's sort of footprints in the different states. So this is how NABG is sort of ensuring we don't just sit in our office in Abuja, but we are actually present, in different
Yeah.
states, taking up different issues and making sure that the impact of whatever we're doing at the federal level is felt down there at the state level.
Fantastic. Because my next question was going to be around some of the initiatives, but however, you've sort of highlighted them.
Yeah.
But I would still like you to still maybe talk a bit more on that. Some of your key initiatives that sort of demonstrates your role in shaping Nigeria's agricultural economy and positioning it for an engine for diversification.
Okay, so to dive in a bit more, so as I said, we work both with public sector and private sector. Let me dive in a bit more around how we're ensuring advocacy efforts for making agriculture a lot better from the public sector side works. We are currently planning an outreach program for all the commissioners of agriculture, in all the states in Nigeria, starting
Mm.
from October, right? We had
Okay.
initially planned to have it one central location in Abuja, but we felt it will be more impactful if we take this to the regional level, right? So we
Region,
are
yeah.
going to sit with all the commissioners of agriculture in each region to converse and talk to them about the initiatives that NABG and other stakeholders have taken up, and how that would fit into their respective states, and how we can partner with them. So not just to tell them you need to do this policy. No, 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 but we're going to work with them to actually develop or modify these policies and support their implementation. A key aspect to that is the understanding and the awareness of such policies by
Mm.
the different players in agriculture in the state. So we would use our platform as a vehicle to ensure that people are aware of such policies, are aware of different initiatives of government, and can support government in making agriculture a lot better. Now that's on the public sector side. On the private sector side, we have several platforms or convenings, especially starting with members of the NABG, to talk about how do you do business a lot better. What innovations, what new solutions are out there? I mean, I just told you about this innovation I saw in Senegal, for the
Yeah.
poultry value. Beyond that, I saw some marvelous things. I saw a young lady from Benue State that came to showcase her sensor technology. This impressive young lady has developed sensors for the poultry value chain that can detect
Mm.
when diseases are more likely to affect your birds, the
Mm.
humidity, the temperature, the issues
Mm.
around feed availability, and all that can go straight to your mobile phone, right?
Oh,
So those sort
wow.
of technologies, the NABG ensures that it's available to partner agribusinesses to know about these innovations and these technologies that can pick up. And beyond that, the linkages. So how do we link, you know, agribusinesses that are into primary production with
Mm.
aggregators around our
Yes,
platform? How do we
yes,
link
yes.
aggregators to processors? Who are looking for rice, who are looking for soya, who are looking for maize, who are looking for different commodities so that they can process. You have, especially in the last administration, a lot of rice processing facilities being set up, but there is no paddy. Not that there's no paddy,
Mm.
in most cases, their sourcing, it needs to be a bit more innovative. So how can we bring them together to say, hey, you're aggregating rice in all of the northeast. There's this processor that is based in north central. How can you guys work together so that can make that happen? Beyond that, on the export side, where the products that were being produced in Nigeria can finds its way, to the international market is another area that we play. So we are members of the Africa Free Trade Continental Action Committee, the AFCAFTA. I don't know if you're aware about it, but
Yeah,
we are
yeah,
a action committee where we ensure that trade is moving seamless within the
yeah.
African continent. We are also a part of the ECOWAS Association for
Mm,
agribusinesses, where we, work with regional players as well across, especially the West African sub-region, to ensure that trade is, happens seamlessly without issue. So these initiatives ensure that on the public sector side, the environment remains favorable and
mhm.
easygoing for players to play. And at the private sector side, the private sector is supported to become more competitive, reduction in
Yes,
costs, boosting their revenues so that they remain, players that can guarantee the jobs down the line for our teaming
yes.
youth and improving the economy as a whole.
Mm. Incredible, incredible. I must say that the initiatives that the group is working on is phenomenal, and I like how it touches across the various sectors, whether it's public or even private, and the
Mm.
initiatives are just phenomenal by design. So my next question to you at this time is, uh, for our listeners, we have people that are just Nigerian entrepreneurs, investors, and young graduates. What would be more like your call to action for them to like join this movement of making agriculture as our new oil in quotes?
So I think part of the things I've seen so far is, or rather, let me say, part of the mistakes that I've seen a lot of players do within the sector is, wanting to do everything, right? So a key call to action for my friends and colleagues and stakeholders from the private sector side in agriculture is pick a niche, pick an area, and triple down on that and specialize on that, right? So if you're doing storage, drill down in storage, be innovative in storage, become an authority in storage within the location that you are, right? Don't touch on the surface of storage and then move to transport and then move to,
Mhm.
so you become a master of none technically, right? So a
Yeah.
call to action is pick a niche, pick an area, specialize on that, ensure you have that fully before moving to the next aspect. Now, this of course I'm talking about a lot of the mid-level and SME businesses, that are
Yeah.
making sort of primary mistakes. For the big guys, of course, they have it down to a science how this happens. So a call to action for my friends and colleagues is to make this happen in that way. Another call to action, or rather call to inaction in this way, depending on how you look at it, is patience, right?
Mm,
Agriculture is a patient trade. It's not something you put in and you get money tomorrow, right? So coming with that mindset of being patient, right? But playing your cards right as effectively as you can. For the investors, right? So we have people who actually provide financing to companies to enable them to do this business.
yeah.
But in most cases, a lot of them are based in Lagos and are not sure whether or not or how to invest in agricultural production or aggregation up in the north.
Yeah.
Speak to people who have this understanding. Come and speak to people like us in the NABG who are able to guide and support your decision making on how to invest
Yeah.
in the sector. Because we need, as I said, all hands on deck and a lot of coordination to happen. For government, the loudest call to action, we need to take agriculture serious. The Malabo Declaration actually asks for 10% of in every nation's agricultural budget to be dedicated to agriculture. We're not there yet, right? We need to make this happen. If we fund
Mm,
agriculture, a lot of the problems we are currently facing now would become a thing of the past. As someone said, that oil may have financed the past, built our core infrastructure that we're still enjoying to today, but agribusiness will take care of the future. So we need to
yes.
take agriculture and agribusiness very seriously ensure that the policies are being put in place and are being implemented, and we have all hands on deck working to make agriculture better. That would be my call to action for the different stakeholders.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this would be our final question for our session with you today, which is
Hmm.
just looking ahead. What would you say is like the bold vision for NABG in Nigeria over the next 5 to 10 years? And how can individuals just position themselves to be part of that bold vision?
So the medium to long term vision for NABG is that we are seen and recognized as that platform for advocating for better agriculture sector for Nigeria, seen as that champion and promoter and enabler for investments in agriculture, seen as the advocate for inclusive, responsive, and well thought out agriculture and agribusiness initiatives that would build confidence in the international community to do business with Nigeria because we guarantee standards, we have quality infrastructure, we have
Yeah.
integrity and value driven players within the sector, and a government that listens and understands and acts for and on behalf of agribusinesses in the country. So for us, that vision of a working agri sector in all ramifications, feeding both the nation and industry and
Mm,
guarantee exports of processed agricultural outputs in Nigeria so that our economy would really, really live up to its name as the giant of Africa. That would be our long term vision as NAPG.
fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Jafar, for sharing with us today. It's been such a delight and an insightful session having you here today. Thank you so much. And thank you for the great work that you're doing with NABG. It is phenomenal, phenomenal. And just listening to the bold vision that you have for the group, I am really, really inspired by them. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure.